Hey, I'm Adam Jusko from ProudMoney.com. Does Synchrony Bank get a bad rap? And if so, is that bad rap deserved or undeserved? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. But first, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not already. And if you have already, I thank you for doing so. So many of us, through some point or at some point in our adult lives, are going to end up with a Synchrony Bank credit card. Not so much because we have chosen Synchrony Bank, but because Synchrony Bank is the bank that backs a number of retail cards and other financing operations. So things like the Amazon store card, the new Verizon Visa, Dick's Sporting Goods, the PayPal Cashback MasterCard, Care Credit, medical financing, if you are familiar with that. So there are a lot of things out there that have sort of other brands up front, but it is Synchrony Bank that is behind them. So most people don't choose Synchrony Bank, although they do have their own invite-only Synchrony MasterCard that sometimes you might get an offer for, but most of the time they are going to be the backing bank for somebody else. So most of the time you're not so much choosing Synchrony Bank as you are choosing the card that they are the backing bank behind. And people have had some good experiences and bad experiences with Synchrony Bank. Now, if you don't know the history, Synchrony Bank used to actually be part of General Electric. It used to be called GE Retail Bank, I believe, or GE Retail Services, something along those lines. So they were part of GE. They were spun out into their own company that was just the financial services part of GE, and then they renamed it Synchrony Bank. So Synchrony Bank has existed for a long time, just in a different form than it does now. So they've been doing the credit card thing for an awfully long time. Over the course of the last, 15 years, I've had a number of Synchrony Bank cards, and for the most part, I haven't had any problem with them. They're really just like any other credit card, although I did have one time I had a Dick's Sporting Goods credit card, and they sent me a thing in the mail and said that I had not paid my last bill, or maybe they sent me the bill in the mail and I saw that there was a late charge and saying that I hadn't paid at all, and I had paid, and in fact, I had even written a paper check that had been returned to me from my bank showing that Synchrony Bank had actually cashed that check, and they did not credit my account and they did a late charge. And then when I called in, they made me prove it by faxing them the actual paper check as proof, which, you know, this was a while ago, so maybe you could make a case that faxing was still a thing, but it wasn't a thing anymore. No one was faxing anything, but kind of felt like Synchrony Bank was going to make me fax the thing to them just to make me have a little bit more of a hurdle as to, you know, getting this situation taken care of. But anyway, I'm sort of digressing here. I've only had that one bad experience. I've used Synchrony Bank many times since then and haven't had any other issues. But I have read many other complaints about Synchrony Bank online and sometimes in the comments to our videos, and they often fall into sort of two buckets of types of complaints. The first one is that Synchrony Bank has cut a credit line without any warning, so all of a sudden somebody had their credit line drastically cut. And then the second one usually has to do with sort of a misunderstanding of how certain Synchrony Bank credit cards or financing arrangements in particular actually work. Now, in terms of cutting credit lines, it's hard for me to comment specifically, but I guess what I would say about that is that banks in general that give out credit cards, they have a right to cut your credit line anytime they want to. The reason I think that Synchrony Bank might be more likely to do it than a lot of other banks is because they are sort of in the business of issuing a lot of credit cards, and they issue a lot of credit cards to customers with lower credit scores than many of the other banks do. So part of their business is to issue a lot of credit cards in terms of, like, that's kind of where they make some of their money, but also it is because they have a lot of retail partners, and those retail partners want a lot of their credit cards out on the market because they want people to come into their stores and use those credit cards. So Synchrony Bank has a couple of reasons to do this, but because they put so many cards out onto the market, that means that they have a lot of people who have sort of shaky credit scores out there, and oftentimes they are going to be, you know, like watchdogs on top of those people, and any wrong move, they're going to get their credit line slashed. And I think what Synchrony Bank maybe tends to do is sort of paint everyone with a broad brush. So if you are newer to credit or you've had any kind of credit problems in the past and your credit score is not great, any wrong move is just cause to have your credit line slashed or have your cards closed altogether, because in my view at least, Synchrony Bank maybe doesn't do as deep of a dive on you on the front end because of the fact that they are sort of under pressure to put more cards out there on the market, to issue more cards, but as soon as something goes wrong, they are going to jump on that. So other banks, if they are going to give you a card, oftentimes they are going to maybe do a deeper dive on you to understand your income, or to really look harder at your credit history than maybe Synchrony Bank does. So they're maybe doing more homework on the front end, and Synchrony Bank is doing a little less homework on the front end, but then they are going to penalize you quickly if something goes wrong. And then I said that the second round of complaints sort of falls into a bucket that is people maybe not completely understanding Synchrony Bank's credit card agreements or their financing agreements. And I think a couple things come into play here. One of them is Synchrony Bank's credit cards in general have very high interest rates. There aren't that many people walking around with a Synchrony Bank card that doesn't have at least a 20% interest rate. And for certain retailer cards, you are up over 25, you may be up as high as 29%. And sometimes if people aren't really paying attention and they start putting something on their credit cards, they're kind of amazed at how high the interest is that they have to pay on their cards. But probably more than that, the place where people get angry with Synchrony is in the deferred interest financing. That I don't know if Synchrony came up with it on their own, but they are definitely the one in the credit card game and in the financing game that really pushes this and works with retailers to, in my view, sort of trick people into paying more than they should. And so the whole idea behind deferred interest or deferred financing is that they will give you a 0% financing offer, and on the front end they'll say as long as you pay everything off in 6 months or pay everything off in 12 months, you won't pay any interest. But the sort of fine print of these offers is that you have to pay off every penny by that 6 months or that 12 months, or they are going to charge you interest from the day you made the purchase. And not only are they charging you interest from the day you made the purchase, they're charging you interest on the actual purchase price, not what is left over that you haven't paid for. So let's say you went to a furniture store and they had a Synchrony credit card. The way they would work it is you buy a $1,000 couch and they say, okay, 0% for 12 months. Well, you go through 12 months and that $1,000 couch, you pay off $950 of it, but you don't quite pay off the full $1,000. You only owe $50 more. Well, once that 12 months is over, it doesn't matter that you only owe $50. What is going to happen instead with deferred financing is they're going to go all the way back to when you made that purchase, that $1,000 purchase, and they're going to charge you the regular interest rate on that $1,000, and you're going to be hit with that all at once. So if you had a $1,000 couch, you paid off $950, you only owed $50 on it, but you didn't pay it off in time within that year of the 0% financing, all of a sudden you are going to get hit with the regular interest rate that usually is going to be 27, 28, 29, close to 30% on top of that purchase price. So your $1,000 couch a year later, all of a sudden you could be hit with $295 or $300 in interest all at one fell swoop, just because you didn't totally finish off paying within that 0% period. And a lot of people don't get that. They assume that if it's not paid off, they'll pay the regular interest rate on just that little piece that they didn't pay off altogether, where instead they're getting socked with all the interest they would have paid from the date of purchase, as if the 0% offer never existed and they never made a payment. So deferred financing is not a very nice thing, and Synchrony Bank is sort of the king or queen of deferred financing in terms of partnering with retailers and then having their financing offers structured that way. And shame on Synchrony Bank and shame on their retailer partners too, to a certain extent, because they know how it all works and they go along with it. Walmart actually used to have Synchrony Bank as the issuing bank of their credit card, and when Walmart was sort of going through a period where their reputation was really bad for various business practices, they actually stopped doing the deferred financing offers anymore because they were getting blowback on the fact that it seemed like they were taking advantage of their customers. So that's certainly nothing good for Synchrony Bank, nothing good on their retail partners. And if you are someone that takes one of those offers and you don't understand how it works, you could find yourself paying an awful lot more than you bargained for. So with all that said, I guess my bottom line thoughts about Synchrony Bank are that if you are a credit card customer that has some credit history in the past and you get a Synchrony card and you use it just like any other card and you pay off your bills each month in full and you never have to pay any interest or anything like that, your experience is going to be just like any other credit card company. You're not going to have, Synchrony Bank suddenly putting some charges on your bills out of nowhere and then going down, this rabbit hole of trying to get it all figured out. However, on the other hand, if you are someone who is newer to credit or you have had some credit problems in the past and Synchrony has taken you on, you can expect that you are probably going to be under the microscope and that they aren't probably going to be very lenient if you do anything wrong, not only with Synchrony Bank cards, but anything else on your credit report. So if that means, slashing your credit line, if they see something else that raises a red flag, or if you have, late charges, they aren't going to forgive them, all that kind of stuff. They're not going to be very lenient. And then obviously on the deferred financing end, that is sort of murky waters ethically as far as I'm concerned. So you need to be aware of how that all works. So I guess on one hand, Synchrony Bank deserves their bad rap because, some of what they do is kind of punitive, punishing you for any little thing that you do. On the other hand, they are just like any other credit card company in a lot of other ways. So it's not like they are out there actively searching on how to pile things on you, but at the same time, they are not going to be lenient at all, in my experience, if you do something wrong. So that's my take on Synchrony Bank, at least on the credit card front. I would love to hear your experiences with Synchrony, whether they be good or bad. I have a feeling I'll probably hear more from the people that have had bad experiences than people that have had good experiences. But do my thoughts sort of, fit your own experience with Synchrony Bank, or if you had other things happen that I did not bring up in this video? I'd love to hear it all in the comments. Otherwise, thanks for watching. And as always, please go to proudmoney.com, where we do credit card reviews. We talk personal finance, we talk deals, and all sorts of other fun stuff too. Thanks for watching. Bye.